There are a couple newsworthy items from this week that at first blush might not seem related, but actually, when you look at it a little closer, I think they are somewhat related, at least in terms of the way we ought to look at them. One, of course, was the assault weapons ban and such that failed to pass through the Senate. It was kind of overshadowed almost immediately by the bombing in Boston at the Boston Marathon. Uh, and you think about this bombing in Boston, a lot of people really don't seem to remember that we are at war. Whether eventually these two brothers that seem to be responsible for this bombing are tied up with some cell, some terrorist cell with foreign people behind this, we will perhaps see. But it does remind us that this country is at war and has been has been at war for some time, and at the same time, the government is trying to limit the citizens' ability to have certain firearms. It seems almost illogical. This debate over a standing army versus an armed citizenry or a militia, if you will, has been going on as long as this country's been around. This really was almost at the genesis of the Second Amendment, because you had Federalists versus Anti-Federalists. The Federalists say we want a standing army. The Anti-Federalists say, hey, wait a minute, what we really need is an armed citizenry, a militia, if you will. So the Second Amendment recognized the ability for individual citizens to be armed, and the Federalists ultimately kind of carried the day to have a standing army. I would argue that nowadays the standing army is so large and so expensive that not is it only is it kind of overshadowing the citizenry, it's bankrupting us as well. But nonetheless, there was a time in this country when the government basically required adult men to have a musket and a certain amount of powder and a certain amount of lead on hand to come to the defense of all of us, of the country, should we need that. And an argument could be made that we're at war now, really, instead of trying to infringe upon the citizens' right to keep and bear arms. Maybe the government ought to be encouraging private gun ownership. It's not that crazy an idea. Certainly, we could do with spending a few $1 trillion less on this huge military we do have, and nothing against the military. It's just a little big and a little overreaching for my taste, and I think for the taste of the founders. And this idea of arming the citizenry is not stupid, because I tell you what, as far as foreign invaders go, if you got 300 million armed citizens, that's a pretty formidable army. Just a thought. Until next time, SasquatchCamp.com. Thank you.